This is set to be the biggest Premier League season ever for me. Not only do we have a title race, it's probably going to be very well fought between the likes of Man City, Arsenal, and then there's always the would-be challengers that emerge from the pack, which used to just be a top 4, but now really feels like a top 6, a top 7 of the kind of established top-end Premier League teams that normally compete for Champions League spots and normally compete for trophies. Some of them are in European football this year, some of them are not. Some of them didn't even finish in the top 7 last year, and there's a whole host of transfer sagas and developments, teams getting stronger, teams recruiting very, very well, and some teams sleeping at the wheel. New manager and situation and not really fixed a lot of problems from last year is a bit of a problem we see right across the league. But off the pitch, for me, this is going to be the first full season where we've got Sorare fantasy football, where we can play Premier League drafts as well as all the full pay-to-play kind of Sorare game modes. With a full season of the Premier League on from game week 1, there's cards available, the modes are all on the platform, and we're ready to go from the first whistle. So I'm super excited to really follow the Premier League with that kind of Sorare lens. If you're new to Sorare and you haven't even opened your account yet, there's a link in the description of this video that will get you a free limited card once you've bought 5 from the auctions. It's the best way to sign up. It's the way everyone signs up. And if you open up a Sorare account and you've not got that free limited card, you're one card worse off than everyone else. It helps you and it helps me an absolute bunch. You just click on that link and sign up directly. If you get stuck or if you've got any questions, just jump into the comment section and I'll come and sort you out. And no matter if you're going to be backing a team because you support them or you're going to be stacking them because it's your Sorare strategy, every team has got one player that is the must-get, the guy that makes the team happen, makes the stack possible. And I'm going to go through, as things stand now, the best Sorare card for every Premier League team. Now, we need to have some established criteria going into this. The transfer window has about a month left to go for incomings and outgoings. So, reliability is definitely on the agenda today. Price at different scarcities, I'll tell you all about it, but I'm not going to be thinking about it in terms of ranking. I'm thinking purely about the card that is a must-get piece, so it's the best card for Sorare. It might be a defender, might be a midfielder, it might be a forward. For some of these teams, it's quite clear, cut and dry, and for some of the teams, it's quite debatable. For you guys that are going to be watching the video, just jump into the comment section and let me know where I've got it wrong or who you think would have been the best player for some of these teams where it is a little bit questionable. And if you're here just to find out about one particular team, just jump into the timestamps there in the description of the video and you can go and check out exactly what team it is that you're looking to build around. At any point in the video, if you laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel. We're pushing for 10,000 subscribers before the start of the new European season, so we really need you guys to start smashing that subscribe button if you're here finding us for the first time and you enjoy the content. Please do drop a like, of course, at any time if you do. Have a good time here. And yeah, let's just get stuck into it. We'll start with one that's quite exciting and one that I do think is probably not got too much of an argument around it. And when we look at Newcastle for this season, finishing top 4 last year, they'll be playing Champions League next year as well. They've been spending a lot of money and really building out their best 11, which is the first port of call for a team like Newcastle that have got mega money. Get your best midfield built, your forward options, etc., then build from the back in terms of depth and those kind of options. And it's clear to see in this next generation Newcastle team, the main man, when Newcastle score a lot of goals, like we see here in this 5-1 victory, like we see here in this 4-1 victory, 6-1 here, the guy that scores well consistently alongside the guy that scores pretty well when the game isn't exactly going their way as well. Here in the 2-each draw, a 0-0 draw here, and the 1-1 draw with Chelsea is Bruno Guimaraes. Now, Bruno Guimaraes has got a fantastic L15 and L5. He's been doing very, very well for Newcastle already, and it's clear to see that they're building the team around him. For a rare at the moment, you're talking just over £300, which I think is a pretty good price considering the amount of rares that are available. And for a limited, you're looking at about £43 or so. But you get a midfielder that does everything. He goes box to box, he makes tackles, assists, goals, does everything. It's a real midfielder that I'm a big fan of. I used to have a Bruno back in the days when he was at Lyon, and he's really adapted to the Premier League, and it's really clear to see that he's capable of getting these big scores for Newcastle, who can make the big difference on your SO5 teams. Now, Brentford are a bit of a funny team because if you actually look at the statistics that Brentford captured last year, if you played a Brentford team a lot last season, you would have won some significant rewards. It's clear to see. When you look at the scores that Brentford have got against the likes of Man City, the good and the great of the Premier League, they're not exactly a team that just bully the bottom end of the table. With them being somewhat underdogs themselves, I don't think you expect that with them. But with a lot of the games where they've played well, the scores they get throughout the team are very dark green consistently. And there's a few key players in here that are pretty recurring for good scores, even perhaps when the rest of the team is a bit more naff. And across the Premier League, if you are looking to either just pick up individually the best players from different teams, you will need to look at different positions. But also, if you are going to be building a Brentford stack, whether it be at common level or with any of the cards you need to go and buy, the number one player you have to build around for me is Ethan Pinnock. Now, every time I look at Pinnock's scores, they are absolutely incredible. £12 for a limited, £65 for a rare, and a guy that doesn't need a defence to keep a clean sheet to get a really good score himself. He very rarely drops a poor score. He's actually very consistently in those 50 to 60 brackets. And like I said, he doesn't always get decisive actions. He doesn't always have a clean sheet to stand these scores up, but he's doing a lot with, look at this, a 2-0 loss to Brentford, and he's dropped in a 93 points, and he's had a positive and a negative decisive action, which means that he's done this only on actual contributions himself. 4 tackles won, 3 effective clearances, 4 interceptions, 14 positive duels won. I suspect a lot of them are going to be aerial. He does like a goal line clearance. He's picked up a few of them as well. And yeah, I think bang for buck, as well as if you're building a Brentford team, this has to be the number one player that slots into it and makes it viable that you've got an all-weather defender in your stack. Now, traditionally with Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, we expect gung-ho, all-out attack approach with fullbacks that offer goals and assists in abundance. And this year we're going to have a really new look Liverpool. I feel like a new constructed midfield, it feels like, over this transfer window. And really, in my opinion, fantastic business has been done in the front line over the last 2 years to really slowly edge out that old generation of Salah, Mane and Firmino with the likes of Gakpo, Jota, Nunes. Also, Salah's still in the building, and I think that this Liverpool team is really set up to be relatively vintage Jurgen Klopp Liverpool, but maybe with a kind of more generation 2 kind of twist to it, with maybe Trent being a bit more of a inverted fullback, as we've seen it last season, playing more in midfield now that the likes of Henderson and Fabinho have moved on. And if you're going to be building a Liverpool team, you have to have a Trent Alexander-Arnold. He is clearly head and shoulders the best scorer in the team. Really an all-weather player as well, for different reasons to some of the other ones we've featured in this video today. But for a limited, actually £170, I think, great bang for buck. For a rare, it's going to cost you a lot of money, but because you can win some fantastic prizes with a rare defender card that can offer these types of scores over the season. Multiple 100 capable, multi 80 plus, 90 plus capable. And yeah, come rain, shine, international midweek weekend, it doesn't matter. The guy reigns green supreme. And yeah, if you're getting a Liverpool team and you don't get a Trent Alexander-Arnold, you're just wasting your time. Now, Wolves maybe threatened to be what Newcastle have became over the last few years, but they've kind of stuttered and stalled. Lopetegui really did straighten steadied the ship over the last part of the season. The last 3 games there weren't amazing, but they did stave off relegation. They started to get a bit of rhythm, a bit of form, and they're going to be quite new looks this year. Obviously, most notably, Ruben Neves no longer in the building. And this year, if you're going to be backing Wolves, you're going to be building a stack of them, or you're going to be targeting them in any given game week. It has got to be about goals. It has got to be about what happens in the front line. And for me, Wolves is going to be a tricky one. Matheus Nunes has got a great claim, as well as Pablo Sarabia, in my opinion, for being clearly the best SO5 card in the team. But with the likes of Pedro Neto, I do hold my breath around the likes of him and Fabio Silva perhaps doing something. But I am going to ultimately be a little bit biased, and I'm going to say Matheus Cunha is going to be the best card you're going to get for Wolverhampton Wanderers for Wolves for this year. Now, really creative, attacking forward. He's been playing in a lot of different positions across pre-season. I'm a huge fan of him. This guy just needs minutes and a run in a team, and you can see this guy get goals and assists galore. His whole problem, he's £5 at the moment for a limited, £60 for a rare. I think that's great bang for buck for a guy that is set to start every game as it stands now. And this guy's problem has just been minutes over his career, really. But he's a guy that in the top end of European football, if you can see him getting a run of games and consistently, he can really deliver some magic. And you don't expect Wolves to win many games this season, but the ones they do, they're going to score 2 or 3 goals, and you're looking for the guys that are going to be picking up 1 or 2 of those decisives, get a good portion of the AA available, and I think Cunha has all of that going for him. So for me, Wolverhampton, the attacking option has got to be Matthias Cunha. Now, I always feel in this kind of situation with Sorare, people are always nervous around the teams that get promoted, maybe not doing so well. But with a lot of the Moneyball teams that we've seen come into the Premier League over the last, let's say, 3 seasons, your Brightons, your Brentfords, and the way Burnley have kind of reconstructed post Sean Dyche, I would put them into that category. They've actually done pretty well, you know. So with Vincent Kompany and the sort of style of football he's playing, and, you know, the Burnley team, it definitely needs a bit more surgery done to it, but it does feel like they're doing good business. They've got a good profile of player in amongst it, and you would fancy their chances to be plucky and get in amongst it, but ultimately it doesn't look like there's that much quality there that really could stave off relegation and really keep them in the league. Now, for me, the best value play in this Burnley team is 100% going to be the goalkeeper. Arajan Muric looks like he's going to be phased out, sold on perhaps, and James Trafford is going to be number 1 for next year. And James Trafford currently doesn't have a Sorare card at the moment, so that's one you'll need to watch out for next year. But it's a big jump to make from League One. I know he did really good in the Euros for England. He was also the hero in the final for them, but Muric at least has played senior football for the last 5 years or so, in England in the Championship, a little bit of Premier League as well as in Europe as well. So if he was to stay, I think you're going to see him play more often than not. Let's see how it goes with Trafford. Obviously, I'm kind of careful of what I'm saying because, you know, you never really know with these goalkeepers unless you're training with them. But Muric is a top quality goalkeeper, and I would expect to see this type of scoring for whoever the Burnley goalkeeper is, whether it be Muric or James Trafford. But I think the Burnley goalkeeper is probably actually the strongest play in the team. You need your goalkeeper to be making tons and tons of saves because clean sheets are so hard to come by that you need a guy with a real AA game, which means they're able to do lots of saves, catch the ball out the air, make some passes, but also as well the lovely juicy points that you love to get for your keeper is all these sweeper keeper kind of actions, which Muric is showing he's capable of, as is James Trafford, I believe, as well. So now Chelsea is a really difficult one at the moment because the squad looks so different to this time last year. The defence is in bits. Some of these guys are gone, some of them are injured, there's new players in. The midfield is non-existent. You know, they've lost like every midfielder except for Enzo. Kovacic is gone, Kante is gone, Mount is gone, Havertz is gone. You know, Pulisic is gone. You know, there's so much of this team that's missing now that with a new manager on top, it feels like there's a lot of business still to be done at Chelsea before we can really see who will be the standout players. But I think it's clear to see the intentions are the Levi Colwill will play a lot. And up front, the likes of Raheem Sterling, Nicholas Jackson, Christopher Nkunku, when fit, injured at the moment, Noni Madueke, these guys are going to get plenty of minutes and plenty of opportunity to go and score. But from what I've seen of all of these players over the last, years or whatever for some of them, months for one or two of them, is, they can be quite in and out of form. They are susceptible to an injury or two also. So that can make some of these guys a bit shaky when it comes to SO5, unless you're going to bundle them all up together. But the best Chelsea player, I think, easy, head and shoulders, on SO5 terms, the guy who's going to get you solid scores, good bang for your buck, that you can build a team around, whether it be a Chelsea stack or not, is clearly Enzo Fernandez. He's also under 23 until 2025, so you can play him in those Wonder Kid tournaments. £60 for a limited, £600 for a rare. He's a premium card. He's a top-end World Cup winner, of course. And since he's transferred into the Premier League from Benfica, his scores have went down ever so slightly, but they've not went down that much. And you've got to think, if Chelsea improve and get back into top 4 credentials, a lot of these scores can improve by 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12 points, quite feasibly, in theory. With him being a World Cup winner and just moving to Chelsea for like 100 plus million, it's easy to think that his career is kind of set for the next couple of years at Chelsea, and you've got a lot of reliability that the team is going to be built around him. So as we see this surgery in the transfer market from Pochettino and Todd Bowley and the kind of overseers at the club, you've got to think that Enzo is the centrepiece around that. So it's a card you can play not just this season as a Chelsea player, but in my opinion, as a Chelsea player for probably the next 2 or 3 seasons on Sorare. Because you own the cards for life, you only need to buy them once and then that's it, you've got them forever until you sell it. Now, Man City is a really funny one. Treble winners last year and the team just goes from strength to strength. João Cancelo is out, obviously. John Stones has been adapted into that role. Josko Guardiol is in. The rest of this defence is full of fantastic selection choices. There's maybe a wee question mark over Laporte's future. We know all about De Bruyne. We know all about Foden, Rodri, Grealish, Bernardo Silva. elite talent all across this team. Of course, Haaland up here at the top. Now, you might think it would be Haaland because he's an absolute goal machine, but his scores are not that great last season because he is only getting decisive actions. He's not really always trapping in with AA games, so he can get lots of these kind of 60 matches, not as many of these big punchy ones. So £282 for a limited, under £3,000 for a rare is quite punchy. But for me, the best player at Man City, if you're going to be building a Man City stack, a Man City team, you're looking to take the best player that embodies Pep Guardiola's Man City and plug him into your Sorare team. Look no further than Rodrigo, as he is here. £75 for a limited. I think it's great bang for buck when you see some of the other players in the Premier League that are priced in this kind of price range. £700 for a rare is probably about market rates with the elite in European football. He plays every game. He does huge scores. He's decisive capable, but he doesn't need the decisive. He does everything for the team. He goes all over the pitch, tackle, passing, does everything. And like I say, if you're just looking to build an amazing Premier League team or a Man City team, Rodri is a fantastic midfield choice. So you can really... He's a real plug-in, all-weather midfielder. It doesn't really matter if they're home or away and all the rest of it. You kind of know what you're getting with him. Whereas some other cards that we've looked at, some other cards that are in this division are a lot more susceptible to the fixture and fitness, which is why De Bruyne didn't make this. Now, I think Bournemouth are really going to struggle this year. I couldn't believe they saved off relegation last year. I don't see much top-end quality in this squad. I think a front three of Solanke, Kluivert and Ouattara is not going to be good enough. I think Ouattara is good enough, but Kluivert and Solanke, firm no. David Brooks has got the potential to be one of the best players potentially in his position in the division if he was to stay fit and healthy. But for me, I think if you're going to be building a Bournemouth team, look no further than Ryan Christie. His scores are terrible, but he's been playing a lot. He's been favoured by the manager. He's cheap as chips, and this is a midfielder that loves to get into the box. He's very final third present, and it means he gets good all-around game when he does get minutes on the pitch. Because he's a midfielder, you do need to worry about things like bookings and goals conceded and such. But for the price range you're getting a guy like this in, he could rock in with 45 to 52s in most matches, and in those games where he does drop off and get decisive, that amount of AA, again, unfortunately here, 60, so look at that, 67 and a 3-0 loss to Man United. Very, very good performance there from Christie. But you're hoping, yeah, you get a wee goal in there and it maybe pushes him up a little bit higher. So I think this is more of a speculative punt than anything, but Bournemouth, I just don't see much going on. They're high-profile signing, of course, in defence in Kerkez, and Andoni Iraola, I've got a lot of faith in, could maybe bring a style of play into this team, and I think Ryan Christie would be one of the main beneficiaries of it. Now, Fulham last year defensively were a nightmare. I don't see any clean sheets here, but they are involved in a lot of high-scoring games. So for teams like this, we're looking for the guys, again, similarly to some of these other mid-ranked Premier League teams, we want to find the guys that get in amongst the decisives, who's multi-decisive capable, who influences the set pieces, who's the guy that when he's on, the team is on. Now, João Palhinha is a big player that you could be mentioning here, but he might be on the move, and I do hesitate on him. I wouldn't be surprised if Andreas Pereira got a move in this crazy transfer window, and I think Harry Wilson is probably the best Fulham player that you could be picking up at the moment ahead of the current Premier League season. Just under £7 for a limited, just under £70 as well for a rare. This guy takes set pieces, he's been super effective, he's bedded in at Fulham, and you can see the sort of scores he is picking up now that he's in the team. 78, 79, 88, really good scores. Now, you're not going to get them all the time, obviously, because it's Fulham, but the good thing about these decisive actions is it doesn't matter about the all-around game if he locks that in. It keeps his score up at that 60 level. So some of those games where maybe Fulham are in a 2-1 loss here, he's picked up the assist, he's okay. A 5-3 win, losing a lot of points for goals conceded, but he's got the assist, it puts his score up nice and high. The clean sheet came in along with the decisive, and you can see there, that's when you get those peak scores. Lovely player profile and could have a great season. Now, I don't think Tottenham are going to resemble anything like they were last year under Ange Postecoglou. I think it's going to be a real revamped Tottenham. It's going to be proper Ange ball, and it does feel like there's still a lot of transfer business to be done in this team to really make it more Ange friendly. Vicario, I think, is probably going to be a very well scored goalkeeper this season. The defence has got lots of question marks and lots of prospects in it. James Maddison clearly is going to be the best midfielder. I think no two ways about it with his all-around game and the set piece potential. But for me, no matter what happens to Harry Kane, Heung-Sun Min is going to be a main forward, a main presence for Tottenham, and I think under Ange we're going to see the best Son Heung-min that we've seen in years. Just under £40 for a limited, just over £300 for a rare. The South Korean legend, international Tottenham probably legend at this point, you know what you get with him. He's pretty much double-footed, plays left wing, he can do it all. And if Tottenham are winning and scoring goals, he's involved. And, you know, when he does that, you're looking at the high 70s most of the time, if not breaking into the 80s. So a fantastic guy that offers you not just international utility, but I think great utility every weekend with Tottenham, who don't have midweek football. It'll just be charging onto the league every weekend. That's the sort of environment you want to have a Son Heung-min card. 100%. Now, it might not shock you because of the lack of quality in the Everton squad, but Dwight McNeil is head and shoulders the best Everton card you could be picking up. He's an under-23 forward, which means he can play in that Wonder Kid division. He's £20 for a limited, £200 for a rare. He takes a lot of corners and set pieces. He's a forward card in a team that doesn't concede many, and because he's in that kind of left mid position, he's going to be getting some of those defensive actions that can really give him a really, really good AA game. And if he does get decisive, this guy knocks out huge scores. If you're building an Everton team and you don't have Dwight McNeil in it, you're wasting your time. Again, guys, I'm looking at this Luton team and I just can't find anything that I could say is a fantasy football player that you would want to have. Like, definitely make sure you pick this guy up. A lot of the unknowns from last year, obviously they weren't covered in the Championship, or we didn't have cards for them. I just don't know them. All their scores are pretty minging anyway. I don't know how they got promoted. Did they have lots of guys on loan? But this team just doesn't look like it's going to be up to it at all. And yeah, I can't really imagine how this is going to work out well for Luton. Again, this might be a bit of a Burnley situation where you're going for the goalkeeper. But having a look at this, who really is the goalkeeper? We've got newcomer Thomas Kaminski coming in, Matt Macy as well. But, you know, so that's probably the only play I think here is the goalkeeper. Again, you want the guy to be busy. He's probably not going to be getting many clean sheets. Kaminski's a good player. He's been on the platform for a while. And yeah, a goalkeeper that can score like this is probably the best thing you could hope for, I think, from any Luton play this year. Now, I've been a big fan of Morgan Gibbs-White since I seen him kind of break through at Wolves after hearing a lot about him in an England youth setup. You know, they won a World Cup or a Euros or something like 3 or 4 years, 5 years ago maybe. And he's so good. The guy's been missing on minutes for the last couple of years. He's been getting them at Nottingham Forrest, and we've really started to see this guy kick on. He was amazing in the Euro Under-21 tournament for England, and he's been getting great scores in the Prem. He has a boom or bust card very clearly, as you can see here, but the booms are worth it. If you can break 75 on the regular, that's a card I want to have in my gallery. And Nottingham Forest, you cannot expect them to keep many clean sheets, but you want a guy that can get stuck in amongst it, and when, you know, the games are going to go well for them, they are going to get a couple of goals, he's going to be one of the guys that's in amongst it. Look here, 3-2 loss, 73 points. 4-3 victory, 80 points. He's been basically playing up front and attacking mid. So yeah, these are the sorts of scores we want to see from a guy in a Nottingham Forest team. Whether they concede a lot or whether they don't, he's capable of doing anything. Now, the frequency of scores is probably the thing that holds him back price-wise here, because he is going to kill a team. If he doesn't make a team, he's going to kill it. And that's maybe a bit of a problem. So he's not perfect, but I think he's a great player, and he should get better this year versus last season. Now, anyone who's played fantasy football will know Pascal Gross was a firm contender to be one of the best cards at Brighton. Of course, guy takes like every set piece for them. His scores are very solid and consistent. He's really cheap. He's £17 for a limited, £111 for a rare, and he plays every game. He's really solid. He's really consistent. He very rarely will let you down. I would maybe say, I do believe he's really safe to stay at Brighton, but he's maybe the sort of guy that could get a Saudi move because he's a Premier League player, you know, like he's a bit of a Premier League player. You know, they're buying everyone. You know, at some point they're going to get to the guys that are just of a good level that want a big payday. I might be being overcautious by putting that against Pascal Gross here, but it's just something I thought I would throw out there. Because he's 32, and these things do come into the thinking for players at this stage of their career. So, very, very cheap, but be prepared for this to be like a one-season usage. Maybe this is the last season you get Pascal Gross at this level for a number of different potential reasons. Now, West Ham, for me, Skamaka's on his way out. Declan Rice is left as well. And the Europa Conference League winners, for me, without Declan Rice, really do miss a huge bit of quality in this squad. And I know that West Ham are very active in the transfer market at the moment, and they're trying to get lots of new faces in. But I think if you're looking at them now, who's the guy who's definitely going to play next year, who's definitely going to be a big player, a big part player, and who could get more of an all-around score, who could be better on Sorare now that Declan Rice is gone? If you're building a West Ham team, or you're looking to build the best Premier League team you possibly can, and you're looking at West Ham, who is that guy? It can only be Lucas Paqueta. Really solid averages last year without being incredible. His limited's only 20 quid. His rare's 150 quid, which I think if you compare that to Bruno Guimaraes, I think that's really good value. Very similar players in some respects. Paqueta more attacking. You can kind of see that here. He's got those really big peaks, and he started to find his feet at West Ham. And you've got to think the Declan Rice, the post-Declan Rice situation, David Moyes, whoever he brings in, has got to facilitate Paqueta being Paqueta and getting the best kind of turnout with him for the Europa League and for the Premier League campaign this year. So yeah, I think Paqueta did great last year in his debut campaign in the Prem, and I think next year without Declan Rice now, he could maybe step up and be another 5 to 10 points better this year. I don't think I'm ever going to say I'm excited to see Man United, okay? I'm very interested to see Man United this season under Ten Hag. It feels like the first season since Fergie that there is a real attempt at this squad now to get back at the European elite in terms of being forward thinking, working the market astutely, getting the best options you can to facilitate the philosophy and the current existing squad there. And I think Man United are very interesting looking this season. It will not surprise you that Bruno Fernandes is clearly head and shoulders the best Sorare card at Manchester United. He's £187 for a limited and just under 1,500 quid for a rare. He takes up the majority of the set pieces. He's an absolute talisman. Man United back in the Champions League next year with a better squad. He's multi-100 capable, multi-80, 90 plus capable for club and country. And he very much, has earned that price tag on the Sorare market. He's a huge power player that the whole team has been built around, and you've got to think if Man United are better this season than they were last season, these scores don't really go down, do they? Now, honestly, looking over this Sheffield United squad, I find it really hard to pick out one guy that could be the star piece. If you were even going to build an all-star Premier League team, anyone in here that would really stand out from the crowd and make a bit of a difference, maybe a goal scorer, a penalty taker, whatever. There just doesn't really seem to be anything going on in this Sheffield United team. But they have actually just been out in the transfer market and they have pulled off a huge move. And they have signed Vinicius Souza from Lamel, which is a second division Belgium team, but it's really just Man City's satellite club. This gives me huge Douglas Luiz vibes. If you don't know about the origin of Douglas Luiz, he was very similar to Vinicius Souza in the CFG network, not really striding into the top ends of European football until Aston Villa brought him along. So I think Vinny Souza, who is a defensive midfielder, he is a real destroyer, breaker up of play. I think you could see the best form of Vinny Souza come into the Sheffield United team. It's been a while since we've seen the big scores from Vinny, but I think he's got it in his locker. It was a really poor season for him overall at Espanyol, but he did show the ability to get those big scores again in a team that were really poor. I do expect Sheffield United to maybe have a similar season to Espanyol, relative to the rest of the division, but I do think that there's going to be less bookings and just general bad teamery at Sheffield United, because Espanyol were pretty rotten, bit of a catastrophe for the most part. It didn't feature regularly. Guys like this need to play on the reg, get a rhythm, get a role and a responsibility within the team, and then be the man in the position that he's in that goes around, wins the ball back and plays it to the more attacking creative players. So for Sheffield, I think the new signing Vinny Souza is the only guy to look at. I think Crystal Palace are building a really formidable squad here, but with some question marks around Olise. It's hard to work out how hard they're going to go for it. They've sold Zaha. They've not really replaced him yet, but I think it's clear to see from pre-season. Eberici Eze is a man on fire. Honestly, I think this guy would walk straight into the top teams in the league. Box-to-box attacking midfielder, up there with the best of them. This guy could play for Liverpool, could play for Chelsea. He could get in the Man City team, I think, in the right weeks for me as well. At 25 years of age, 25 quid for a limited, 160 quid for a rare. I think it's fantastic pricing. He did very good at the back end of last season, and I think that cluster of scores you see there after he's returned from injury off the bench, I think that's the sort of outlook we've got here for Eberici Eze this year. I think Crystal Palace could be right in amongst the middle of the table and maybe at some spells of the season, maybe even threaten to get top half. And I think if they're in that vein of form, Eberici Eze is going to be a man in form on Sorare, and he's going to be a guy that you need his card for. Now, I'm rather excited for Unai Emery's Aston Villa this year, but there is a catch with them. They've got midweek football in the Conference League as well as a Premier League campaign to go on. They've been recruiting very well. The squad has clearly got stronger, but I don't think there's any two ways about it. If you are going to be building Aston Villa stack, a Villa to glory, or even, like I've mentioned a few times, a Premier League great team, and you're looking for the best SO5 player in this team to really complement that, the only guy to be looking at for me is Ollie Watkins. Now, these averages all here for me are very deceptive. He's 27 years of age. He's £43, 240 for a rare. And I think this guy plays every week for Villa. I think he's so crucial. Villa need another Watkins in the team in case something happens to this guy. But the form this guy can get into for Villa, I don't think you can touch it for the price he's in. We've seen Haaland in this video today, and some of these scores are not really, is Watkins better than Haaland? I would maybe say he is. You do worry what playing midweek and weekend football will do to Villa rotation, as well as potentially all of Watkins' form. But I do feel that he is best 11, must play for them every single week. And I've seen with Unai Emery and other teams, that type of striker, he'll play them every game if they're fit. Now, Arsenal surprised us all last year with their title push, and they really threw the towel in towards the end. Them and Borussia Dortmund really did bottle it, and I think they're going to be back with a bang next year. You can see the scores. The team was very good and very solid overall. Just lacked that consistency of always getting the 3 points over the line. But with some of the signings they've made, for me, Arsenal are firm title contenders this year. Now, you're probably going to start shouting Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard at me, maybe a defender as well, I don't care. Declan Rice for me is going to have an incredible season in this Arsenal midfield. For me, at £470 for a rare, 50 quid for a limited. The England international is the closest thing Arsenal have had to Patrick Vieira since the great man himself played for them. These types of scores for West Ham, who only just staved off relegation, is a great indicator of what we're going to get from him at Arsenal. I think this guy could be pushing 70s and 80s every week with his all-around score. Never mind any decisives he could be thrown into the basket as well. And at 24 years of age, he's just signed there. It feels like this is the beginning of a huge uptick in Declan Rice's career. Now he's won the Europa Conference League with West Ham, and I think any success Arsenal have, you're going to see huge, massive scores come out of Declan Rice on Sorare. I hope you've enjoyed this one, guys. Don't forget, if you get stuck or if you've got any questions, drop a comment down below. Let me know where I went wrong. Let me know who you've seen in the video today and you thought, oh, I could actually use him for my team. On screen there now with some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.